Does your vote actually matter? Because every time a big election is coming up, every YouTuber I've ever watched is really quick to tell me to
vote. Find your place to vote. Vote.
But can your single individual vote really turn the tides of an election? Does it really matter whether or not you specifically vote? And the answer is way more complicated than it should be, because sometimes no, your vote really doesn't matter. But in other cases, your single vote could genuinely determine our next president. See, most of the time when a group is voting on something, the popular vote determines the winner, which is just a fancy way of saying majority rule. Like if you and your friends are trying to decide what movie to watch and 6 people vote for Die Hard while 4 people vote for Barbie, you're gonna be watching Die Hard. Die Hard has won the popular vote. So presumably that's how we decide the president, right? There's around 217 million registered voters in the US. So theoretically, if everyone were to vote for one of 2 presidential candidates, then whichever candidate had the majority votes, that candidate should become the president because they have the majority vote. And if voting for president did work that way, then your vote would matter a lot. But that's not at all how it works. Because here in the US, we've set up a fun little system called the electoral college, which makes it so that when you vote for the president, you're not actually voting for the president. You're voting for which candidate you want your state to vote for to be the president. Which sounds a bit confusing, but don't worry, that's because it is. It is so very confusing. I just graduated college with a degree in psychology, and this is the most confusing thing I've had to learn in like 2 years, okay? Quantitative statistics was easier than this. Basically, the electoral college makes it so that there's only actually 538 votes being cast for president, and each state gets to cast a different amount of those votes depending on its population. So like California has a huge population of 39 million people, so California gets to cast 54 of those 538 electoral votes. On the other hand, Oklahoma only has a population of 4 million people, so Oklahoma only gets to cast 7 of the 538 votes, which at face value still seems like pretty fair. Convoluted and unnecessary, absolutely. But at least the states with more people still get more votes. That part at least makes sense. The real trouble comes from the winner-takes-all policy that 48 out of 50 states have enacted. Imagine that the US government has decided to change the national anthem. They say, hey, next Tuesday, everybody's got a Pokemon go to the polls and vote on whether the next national anthem should be Seabat or Bohemian Rhapsody. So everybody goes to vote. In California, 20 million people vote for Seabat and 19 million vote for Bohemian Rhapsody. And in Oklahoma, 1 million people vote for Seabat and 3 million vote for Bohemian Rhapsody. In total, that's 21 million votes for Seabat and 22 million votes for Bohemian Rhapsody. So Bohemian Rhapsody wins easily, right? Except no, because under the winner-takes-all policy, whichever side has the majority vote in a given state gets all of that state's electoral vote. So since 20 million people in California voted for Seabat and only 19 million voted for Bohemian Rhapsody, that would mean that all of California's 54 electoral votes go towards Seabat, and the other 19 million people that voted for Bohemian Rhapsody just get ignored. Their votes are just tossed into a fire as if they never happened, as if all 39 million people in California unanimously agreed that, yeah, I think Seabat should be our next national anthem. And like, sure, Oklahoma's majority voted for Bohemian Rhapsody, but that only gives it 7 electoral votes against California's 54. So using the winner-takes-all policy, Seabat wins by 47 votes, when really Bohemian Rhapsody should have won by literally 1 million. Now obviously, I don't even really think I need to say it, this is a pretty huge problem. Like, this is what caused Trump in 2016 to lose the popular vote, or the majority vote by citizens, by 3 million, yet still win the presidency. Those 3 million votes were just erased by the winner-takes-all policy. Which, hey, no matter which side you're on, I think it's pretty clear that that's a pretty huge injustice. That's not good. Don't like it. Like, through the winner-takes-all policy, there's a theoretical world where a presidential candidate could get only 70 million out of 217 votes and still win the presidency. That's insane. So the obvious solution is, okay, let's just get rid of the winner-takes-all policy. That way states don't have all of their electoral votes go to one candidate. If we go back to our national anthem analogy, since 20 million Californians voted for CBAT and 19 million voted for Bohemian Rhapsody, getting rid of the winner-takes-all policy would mean that 28 of California's electoral votes would go towards CBAT and 26 would go towards Bohemian Rhapsody. And using that same logic, 2 of Oklahoma's votes would go to CBAT and the rest would go to Bohemian Rhapsody. We end with 30 votes for CBAT and 33 votes for Bohemian Rhapsody. The majority vote actually wins. So call Bob the Builder, tell him we don't need him, because everything's fixed, right? No, not at all. The system is broken in so many other ways. Because even if we get rid of the winner-takes-all policy, the Electoral College makes it so that not all votes count equally, depending on which state you're in. Because one of the rules of the Electoral College is that every state has to get at least 3 votes, no matter its population size. And only then, after these first 150 votes have been evenly dispersed, can the remaining 388 votes be distributed by population. Which creates a bit of a problem, because if all else were equal and we were to distribute all 538 votes by population, then every state should get 1 vote for every 632,000 citizens. But because every state starts with a mandatory 3 vote, we're left with cases like Vermont, which has a population of 644,000 and thus should have 1 vote, yet has 3. And because states like Vermont are now hogging up the votes that should belong to states with bigger populations, we're left with states like California that has 54 votes when it should have 62, or Texas that has 40 votes when it should have 50. So if you're a Texan voter, then your vote is only actually worth 80% of a single vote. But if you're in Vermont, then your vote is worth 3 people's votes. And this discrepancy is so bad that a reporter named Robbie Deming actually calculated the relative voting power of each state, and Maryland is the only state where 1 vote actually equals 1 vote, because they have 10 electoral votes, which is 1 vote for every 626,000 people. So basically, the Electoral College is a terrible, terrible system, and it should be changed, in my opinion, to a popular vote. But for the foreseeable future, we're stuck with it, so now what? If you're a liberal in Florida and the winner-takes-all policy makes it so that if even 51% of people vote conservative, all of Florida's 30 electoral votes go to the conservative candidate, as if you never even voted to begin with. And on top of that, your vote is only actually worth 80% of a single vote anyway. Is there even a point in voting? Is there any point in Pokemon going to the polls? And given everything I've just talked about, the answer is really seeming like a no. But the truth is, your vote does matter a lot. There's just a catch. And to get on my woke soapbox for a minute, my woke box, if you will, I'm a liberal. I don't like Trump. A very unique, brave take to have. I know. Thank you. Thank you. Hold the applause. So we're gonna explore the impact that your individual vote can have by asking the question, how easy would it have been to make Trump lose the 2024 election? As of July 2024, there were over 18 million people 18 years or older living in Florida. Yet only 10 million of them voted in the 2024 presidential election. Which means that, assuming those other 8 million people were actually eligible to vote, since being 18 years old is basically the biggest barricade to voting, 8 million Floridians just didn't vote. Among the 10 million who did vote, though, the majority voted for Trump. So in the end, Trump won Florida and took home all of their 30 electoral votes. So let's assume for a minute that you were one of those 8 million non-voting Floridians, and you didn't want Trump to win the election because of the horrors that would come. If only you throw your hat in the ring to vote, let's not sugarcoat it here, you're not gonna make any difference. In 2024, Trump won Florida by over 1 million votes. A single vote is not changing anything here as long as the winner-takes-all policy is in place. But even though one person alone wouldn't change anything, if just 18% of the 8 million people who didn't vote in 2024 did vote, and they voted against Trump, then Trump would have lost Florida, which would have been great, and it shows what people can do when they unite, but Trump would have still won the election. So let's take it a step farther. In 2024, there were over 10 million people over 18 years old living in Pennsylvania, yet only 7 million of them voted in the election. And you guessed it, Trump won Pennsylvania. But barely, because assuming those other 3 million people were eligible to vote, if only 3.5% of them, or just over 120,000 people, were to vote and vote against Trump, then Trump would have lost Pennsylvania. And that, in addition to him losing Florida, would have made him lose lose the entire election. Donald Trump would not be our president right now. We wouldn't have to deal with him threatening genocide every other tweet. Yeah, that was wrong. What's up, squad? It's editing Chloe. I couldn't find this before, but I ended up being able to find the differences between people in each state who are over 18 versus those who are actually eligible to vote, which does change the numbers of eligible non-voters that you need to vote in order for Trump to lose in 2024. So in Florida, there were actually only 5.3 million eligible non-voters, so you need 27% of them to vote. And in Pennsylvania, it wasn't that different. There were 2.8 million eligible non-voters, so you need 4.3 of them to vote against Trump. So it's a little different, but I think it's still achievable in order to escape the hellscape that we're living in right now. I don't think it's that crazy of an ask. Here's the video again. So what I'm trying to say is we need you to be a part of that 18% in Florida, or that 3.5% in Pennsylvania, or whatever percent in whatever state you are in. We need you. Because yes, the system is terribly flawed and completely broken, but until we can actually rebuild it and fix it, the only way we can overcome it is if we stand together. So the next time an election comes up, do what all my friends say when I assume they're referencing a TikTok I've never seen. Nina, just vote.
Just vote.
Just vote.
I know I'm gonna be out, so just vote.
Who's the leader here?
Nina.
I feel like it's the three of us.
Nina.
I'm not gonna lie.
Nina.
I think it's
And don't leave this video assuming that now enough others will vote so that you still don't have to. That is a psychological phenomenon called the bystander effect. It's where everybody assumes that everybody else is going to take care of the problem, so then nobody actually takes care of the problem, and it's an infinite loop of nothing getting done. We all fall for it, myself included, and it's really freaking annoying. So don't be a bystander, because your vote matters, but only if we stand together. Also, this video was a lot different than my usual ones. Let me know if you liked it.